Yes, thank you very much, esteemed delegates, Mr. President, colleagues. It's an honor for me to be here. And when Professor Oomen was speaking about the day she would always remember, I was thinking, which day would I remember most about multilateralism and about how difficult it is to take the right decisions. So I want to take you back to a very personal experience 9 years ago, which was my very last visit to Crimea. When I was working for the OSCE, another multilateral organization that is going through very difficult times, I was working for a high official who had an impossible choice ahead of her. We were asked by the government of Ukraine to write a human rights assessment report. We were an impartial, independent monitoring body of the OSCE, just like the Council of Europe has them. And we knew what was going to happen. And I told the high official, Excellency, I am going to write a report that is going to cost you your job. Because I will put on the report where this peninsula belongs, and we will put in there that there's human rights violations, and the country that will receive this report is the one that can veto your extension of your mandate. And she said, yes, I know, but what's the point in me having this job if I don't do it? So go ahead, write a report. We did. She did get vetoed 2 years later by the Russian Federation. We had no more access to Crimea after that anymore. But we did the right thing. I feel we did the right thing, but the price was high. The price was very high because after that, almost no more international visits. The Council of Europe managed once more to visit. And after that, all the citizens living there, many of whom were very unhappy with what was going on, I can personally assure you, especially the Crimean Tatars, no longer benefited from the scrutiny that we could provide as a multilateral organization. Because we spoke, as Secretary General, you spoke also about the dilemmas, and I think we'll speak more about it. The inclusion versus isolation debate in multilateralism. I think her personal dilemma that she had at the time is also one that organizations have as a whole. If you do the right thing, if you stand up for the values that these organizations represent, they are, after all, a community of values. That does mean that you lose something else. You lose access, you lose the opportunity to have the violator at the table, you lose the opportunity to have a dialogue, but sometimes there's no dialogue left anymore. I sometimes look at videos of the OSCE Permanent Council, and if you look at the most recent one, you actually see everybody walking out as the Russian delegate is speaking. Somehow it's still, as somebody who spent 12 years in that organization, it still pains me to see that. It pains me to see that what is meant as a tool for dialogue, a tool for crisis management, a place where you can hold each other to account, when you can have a free and fair discussion about values and commitments, has become a place of monologues, of almost pointless monologues, to the point that diplomats feel they rather walk out than to listen to it. And I think that dilemma is unique for each and every organization. The Council of Europe has chosen to be principled, even though you struggled with it as well. I remember the time when the voting rights of the Russian delegation were already restricted and later restored. That dilemma is not new to you. The OSCE is still going through this every day, this dilemma, and we don't know how it's going to end. We don't even know if there will be an OSCE, actually. We're looking forward. It might be quite difficult. But ultimately, we need to look at why these organizations exist. They exist to uphold values. They exist to also create a platform for an exchange on these values and the ability to hold each other to account. And they exist as tools to help the citizens of the countries, as Professor Oomen pointed out, to get the protection that these commitments give them. And if they can no longer fulfill that purpose, then multilateralism is not just at a crossroads, it's on the edge of the abyss. Yeah. And that is a really serious matter. I hope that Reykjavik will re-energize the Council of Europe. The OSCE was hoping that Helsinki plus 50 would re-energize the OSCE. And in this sense, I'm not a pessimist, actually, because sometimes things really have to get worse before they get better. The Council of Europe was born in the aftermath of a gruesome war. And the CSCE, the predecessor to the OSCE, was born after the Cuba crisis, after really a serious East-West crisis that brought the world also to the brink of a very serious conflict. So maybe things still need to get worse first before they get better. But I think I can only agree with you, Mr. President, that this opportunity is there for the leaders now to come together, to reaffirm the values that they stand for. And I sincerely hope that at some point there will again be a representative from the Russian Federation who also again adheres to these values. It may take an incredible long time. The Minister Wierwin spoke about how long it takes for justice to be reached. It may also take a very long time before we again see representatives from the Russian Federation at the table adhering to these values. But I sincerely hope that they will come and that this horrible dilemma of inclusion versus isolation can again fall to the side of inclusion. I thank you.